Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures Market Outlook, where we take a look at our favorite futures markets and formulate an attack plan for tomorrow's trading. Today started off, we started off the week in a really slow moving day, barely even keeping people awake. And then we started seeing a little bit of movement going in towards 11 o'clock, of course, right, in the afternoon session. But the U.S. session and really the day as a whole was a very slow, grindy one. And it took a lot of patience and a lot of caffeine to stay around for this type of market. But of course, with no news on a Monday after a good weekend, you kind of expect at least a little bit of that. Now, before we jump on in, as always, make sure to swing it over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign your email up in our email list so that you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out. Along with that, in the email itself, aside from the video portion, we talk about different stocks and cryptocurrencies and all kinds of different plays that you can work on for potential areas of interest in terms of trading, in terms of setup, all kinds of different stuff. So make sure to sign up for the newsletter if you haven't done so already. And then along with that, feel free, swing on over, click on the live trade room subscription and trial info, and sign up for a 3-day trial. That will let you sit down in the room with us. You'll see the live trade room. You'll see all the screens that we're looking at, the trades that we're looking to take, all of the explanations and all kinds of cool stuff. It's a great way to sit down with us for a couple days and see what we're all about. Along with that, you can also talk openly with all of the different members and all that fun stuff. So it's just a great way to see what's going on and how everything works and if it's a good fit. Of course, if you do enjoy it, you can sign up for a weekly or monthly subscription. And of course, if you join as a full-fledged VIP member, you get the live trade room as part of the package. Now, taking a look over on the euro, first of all, the euro is, for the most part, not really doing a whole lot. In all real movement that we have, it's just kind of pulling back into that big drive down that they had on Friday. Now, that big drive lower, one of the big areas of interest is going to be that breakout point, right? They broke out right through that low. So the fact that they're looking to break out underneath that point, and they obviously succeeded in that pretty well, a lot of times the market will love to come back to those breakout points and retest them to see, basically, hey, sellers, we're back. Are you still interested? So that area right around 8,500 is a pretty big level. But aside from that, we really didn't accomplish a whole lot today. It looks as though we're in a little bit of a flag, in a little bit of a range. The bear side still has plenty of emphasis, even though this does look like an upward moving kind of situation that we have here on the euro. Every time that we've had a bull breakout attempt, it's done nothing but fail and pull right back in on itself. So even though we do have an upward arcing move to this euro at the moment, the bigger picture is still pointing pretty much down over the last couple days. The only thing that really stands out is if you zoom out really far, especially if we go to like a 30-minute chart, we have a deep pullback in an otherwise really strong bull trend. But looking at this leg down, it's really hard to not see this big of a move down that doesn't get followed up with a secondary attempt. Now, that secondary attempt may make a higher low, or it may make a measured move down, but it's very difficult to see this kind of downturn off of the highs without seeing a little bit of follow through. So in all honesty, this big pullback, larger buyers are probably buying into this, assuming that it's a little bit on the cheap side and they're trying to scale into larger positions. But really over the next couple days, it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see the market go down one more time to get that secondary leg and finish off this drive down before the buyers really start slamming in and pushing back towards a new high. So I think in the bigger picture here, we obviously are in a bull trend, but with the kind of expectation of a secondary leg to the downside. So what does that mean for the short term? Well, in the short term, really I'm just looking for failures from the buy side and looking to sell back down to at least retest Friday's low, maybe even a little bit lower. Over on gold, really not accomplishing a whole lot here either. Gold very slow and choppy, big range forming between 65.3 and 61.6 with a smaller micro range inside of there. Really, we're kind of cycling off the highs, double top. We had a double bottom with a 1-tick new low failure and a turn right back around. Again, zooming out to the bigger picture is important here. We can see that every time they've made this dive lower, it caught a big correction. Big dive lower, big correction. Big dive lower, big correction. We have a big dive lower. The anticipation here is that we're going to get a big correction. Now, obviously, I would love to lean on the sell side and sell everything I can, but given what the market has told us so far, we're anticipating 80 to 90% of this move being taken back, and that means that we could be up and around this 1274 area, 73 to 74, as early as tomorrow or maybe even the next day, because that's kind of what we've been seeing over the last several times that it's made this a downward attempt. Now, once again, zooming out, getting a bigger picture, we are obviously in a big bull trend, and the fact that we have a 3 push wedge bottom kind of hurts the fact that the sellers may be able to try to push down again for a big leg, right? Normally when you get this 3 push wedge bottom, they start running out of steam on that 3rd attempt, and usually that's where you start getting the double bottom or a really tiny fake break of the lows and a reversal. So even though I would love to lean on the sell side here as well and try to pummel this market back down to 0, well, that just doesn't look to be the case that we're going to be dealing with. So because of that situation that we're in right now, I am looking to sell, and I'm looking to sell back down to attempt those lows. But once we hit those lows, the long-term side of me really starts to pick up a little bit, thinking buy, and then we're looking for that deep correction up. And again, they've been taking back 80 to 90% of the move, so it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see that 1274 as early as even tomorrow. As crazy as that sounds right now, it is definitely a possibility. So I'm leaning on the sell side right now, but with a quick trigger finger to switch gears to the long. On crude oil, we looked like we were going to have some pretty decent movement, but for the most part, it took all of it back at the end of the day. Beautiful bearishness for most of the morning, grinding lower, good breakout to the downside. They tried holding that breakout. It looked like it was going to fail and then dumped all the way down to a new low just to reverse right back up again. So a lot of whip, a lot of all over the place kind of movement, and that leaves us with pretty much just a big range and a little bit of a failure at the bottom. You could draw the range up a lot of different ways. It looks to me like the best range low is at 48.88. They tried to make a dive lower, it failed, held it as support, then they finally broke down on that monster candle, and even when it came back, it still responded as resistance and support. So I do like that as the range lows. The range highs are a little bit up in the air. You could draw them a lot of different ways. At the top of that big breakout move to the upside, you could also look at the shallower move and say, well, maybe this little thing right here is the range, and they're working to deviate off of this up and down, right? So a deviation up, deviations down, etc. Now, that does show a reversal area right here, but we also have an open-ended objective to the upside at 49.47. So even though we do have a potential deviation high acting as resistance, we also have a big wide open target for the buyers to still gun for at 49.47, and it wouldn't be a surprise to see them finish that move off before we get a little more info. Now, if they do want to reverse fully and go back through the highs like we've seen through the low here, grinding all the way down, with as whippy as this thing is right now, it wouldn't be much of a surprise to see it go all the way back up too, and that adds a big level of resistance at 49.88 all the way up to, of course, the big round number at 50. So right now, we're stuck really just in a big range. If we zoom out, we've been stuck in this range for several days now, and it's not really much of a surprise. We're cycling off of the lows, and we're looking for the highs. And if we can get that breakout move above those highs, then we're looking to go back towards that $50 area. But for right now, we're in a range. We're looking to play it that way. Buy low, sell high, and, well, try your best to stay out of the middle. Even if it's not moving, maybe just look at a different market, because, again, today was just a little bit slow. And then wrapping up on the S&P 500, man, the S&P 500 almost looks like the bonds. It's been so slow today. The overall range that we have from the low of the day to the high of the day, we're working with about 6.25 points. That has been narrowing down successively for several days now. We've gone from a 10-point to an 8-point to now a 6-point. We're losing a lot of steam here, and that could mean one of two things. We either have that coiling spring where the spring is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until it explodes, or there's just nobody here to trade. So, obviously, I'm hoping for the explosion move because, well, I don't really want to deal with these super slow markets for too long. The bigger picture, we're still in a range. We're cycling off of the lows of that major range. The objective for the buyers buying down here is back to the highs, and arguably we have succeeded in that move, but that monthly high does look pretty juicy to push back up to those record highs, and it wouldn't make too bad of an argument for the buyers to continue that push up to try to get that breakout. Overall, though, we just have a wide wedge working its way across, not really a whole lot going on there, and kind of an equal top that we need to break out of. We're in a range. We're looking to buy low, sell high, stay out of the middle, and preferably buying low given the overall sentiment. I would really like to buy on a dip back down to 73 and a quarter. I mean, even a retest of this earlier support and resistance around 75 and a half wouldn't look that bad. We just have to avoid buying way up here because there's just no more room for the trade to work. So be very careful on the S&P. Buy those dips, stay the heck out of the middle as much as you can. And, well, we may be able to find a longer-term move if we're patient enough. So that's going to do it overall for the outlook. Now, in terms of the news for tomorrow, just like today, there really wasn't anything today. It was a Canadian holiday, but no U.S. news. Tomorrow, we only have one U.S. news announcement. That's coming out at 10 o'clock. That's the JOLTS job openings for June, forecasted at 5.775 million. Previous was 5.666. A little bit of an ominous number there to go against on the previous, but that's all we have for tomorrow. There's nothing really going on outside of that, and because the morning session doesn't have any big news out of Europe, we don't have any afternoon news for the U.S. session, or even evening news for outside of the U.S. going into Australia, Japan. It may be a little bit of a slow, grindy morning until we get to that news, get the news out of the way, and then start kicking off a little bit. But either way, it's been slow. Make sure to grab an extra cup of coffee if you need one, but otherwise, enjoy the rest of the day, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.